Friday night. It's well after 7 o'clock. We've been having a post-production meeting tonight, just discussing some of the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to bring up Hearts. We're going to bring up how well Hearts have done, how well they're doing under Neil Critchley. Liverpool, Arne Slot's reached a final in his first season as Liverpool manager. Big Ange didn't get there in his second, but hey, that's another story. We might talk, religion, women's football. We could well be talking about Donald Trump. It's going to be a busy show, but let's try and keep it tonight, Dennis, under an hour and a half. Guys, how are we? Graham, first of all, how's things?
Brilliant. Critch ball's in full flow. Liverpool's in a final, top of the league, top of the Champions League. I'm buzzing, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Dennis, you miserable old sod, how are you?
I'm fine, Cammy, and hello, Graham. Before we start, I would just like to say I attended a friend's funeral today. Billy Gibson, good friend at work. Used to deal with him in business, and also helped me when I was at Cumbernauld, and also East Stirling. He used to do some of my match reports for me. Sadly missed. Massive turnout today. I'll not expand on it too much because it'll upset me, but the bottom line is you wouldn't have met a nicer human being in this planet. And along with his family, Val, Lee, Simon, David, and Fiona, his daughter, Val being his wife. And, he'll be missed. He's a true human being. And when I look at what's wandering about the streets sometimes today, it'll be a sad loss to the humanity. So I hope you rest in peace, Billy.
Yeah. Echo these sentiments, obviously, Dennis. You can certainly see, obviously, how upset. And obviously, any passing's never nice. So commiserations to Billy and to Billy's family, obviously, and yourself and anybody who's close to him. But moving onwards and upwards, Graham, you mentioned it there I mentioned it in the intro. You kind of took over. Critch Ball, what on earth is going on at Tynecastle? Manager of the month, unbeaten. What a start you've had to 2025.
Fantastic. Couldn't have seen that about a month ago, to be honest. But yeah, it's been so much better. I think we have to remember that when he first came in, he had a squad that wasn't his. They were low in confidence. We weren't winning games. And he didn't really have time to train them because we were playing Thursday, Sunday. Now he's had that break with no European football. And you can see the difference it's made. The players look far more confident. Of course, winning's a habit. We're winning now. The signings have been very good. Elton Kabang has been absolutely fantastic so far. 5 goals in 3 games. He's given us pace, power. Jamie McCart at the back's been really impressive. Shanklin's come back. You've got Blair Spittle, top goal scorer for us this season. There's been a massive, massive difference. I can see a style of football. And what I love about him is his interviews after games as well. Now, there was a question and answer session with Critchley yesterday. I wasn't there, but a few fucking know where. And he was asked a couple of questions and stuff. And he actually said, we beat Dundee 6-0 on Saturday. And he wasn't happy because he said the possession stats were 50-50. He wants us to dominate games. And I love that. I love the standard that he's setting at that club. It's what's been lacking for a while. So, yeah, the job he's doing is fantastic. 1 point off the top 6, 3 points off Hibs. I think we're only 5 or 6 points off third, which you would never have seen weeks ago. So, yeah, things are looking very, very positive. There's been bumps in the road, of course there has been, and there might be more. But I'm really enjoying what I'm seeing so far. It's been so much better. Yeah.
Dennis, we all know you've got a soft spot for Hearts. You know, Tynecastle's a place you enjoy going to watch games, and certainly the way Hearts are playing just now, who wouldn't enjoy going to watch them?
Yeah, I'll clear this up again. I'm no Hearts supporter, Cam. You keep saying that.
No, I didn't say a Hearts supporter. I said
I'll say what I am, though. I'm a Hearts fan. That means you like their football, you like the stadium and everything else. And I do, sometimes I envy the fact I don't go to games much on a Saturday, but certainly my trips through when we're doing the media stuff with Tynecastle was brilliant. Really is. It's a great atmosphere. The pitch is brilliant. It's so close to the supporters. It's a treat, Graham. I know you enjoy it very much. Hearts, I've said it all along, they needed a forward line. And the difference is the rest of the team's ticking because he's made additions. And when you look at it, you can say there's people out there that maybe weren't performing before are now performing just because there's a couple of additions in it. And that to me has been the big difference. It's been stated from the start of the season. Oh, everybody says Hearts have got a good squad and all the rest of it. Just wasn't gelling together. And I've said all along, it needed somebody to take the pressure maybe off Shankland, and he's done that. And I think probably if you look at the window, he has made the best signings in the Premier League for the way that Hearts are looking to forward. And it's great for Hearts, and it's, I'll step on it as well. It's great for Hibs, for the Edinburgh side, that they're now starting to look as if they can challenge up the top four in that team, if that league.
Yeah, that league, yeah. Yep. Graham, I'm obviously sitting here, make no secret of the fact I've got a maroon flag behind me. It's not for Hearts, as everybody knows, but certainly, as Dennis says, what both Edinburgh clubs have been doing in the last 2 months has been absolutely fantastic, helped by the implosion at Pittodrie. But who's to say that Hibs and Hearts can't actually be challenging, as you say, for third and fourth spots?
There's absolutely no reason we shouldn't be. There has been a definite upturn from both Hibs and Hearts. Sadly, Hibs have picked up, which is a shame for me. But yeah, it has been so much better. And I read the stat last week on something else that I was doing, and at Christmas time, Aberdeen had 34 points, Hearts had 16. Now they've got 35, we've got 30. I mean, the collapse of Aberdeen has been spectacular, but we still had to pick up results, and we have done that. And now we're looking up the way rather than down the way. And I mean, obviously after Monday, the Scottish Cup game, our next home game's Rangers, and our record against them is pitiful. We've not beat them since 2020, which is not good enough. So that's a big step to take if we can win that game. Mm-hmm. But there's been so much more positivity recently. Going to Dundee, a place which is not easy, and smashing them by 6, and that could have been more, by the way. We could have had a lot more in that game. Yeah. But the football we played was really impressive. Some of the goals we scored were really good. The opening goal from Shankland is the type of goal he scored last season. He looks like he's back in form now. And I think signing Kabangu has made a difference now. You can see it's taking a bit of pressure off him. James Wilson, who I think has been excellent so far, but he's still only 17, it takes that pressure off him as well. I think the signings that Critch has made have been very impressive. We've not seen a couple of them yet because Steinwinder's not played, neither's Khartoum, and Harry Mills only just signed. But if they're as good as what we've got so far, then it can only be a good thing. The only thing, I said to somebody else that it's an 8 out of 10 window for me. The only thing stopping it being a 10 out of 10 window was I think we needed a pacey winger. We didn't get one. But apart from that, I can't be disappointed. It's been very, very good so far.
Yeah, indeed. And I mean, is that the difference? Obviously, just the players he's brought in, or had things been on the kind of upward trajectory anyway prior to the signings? And these have just really solidified what obviously Hearts have been the last 2 or 3 months.
The signings have definitely helped, but there has been before that even an upward trajectory. And I think you've got to look as well. The Ross County game, we were 2-0 up, chucked it away. The Aberdeen game, if we score the penalty, if we get 6 points out of those 2 games, we're actually above Aberdeen. It's these kind of things that just make a big difference. But there's definitely been a change. You can see the style of football. We're trying to play a 4-4-2. We're trying to play, more aggressive, more attacking. And you can see that. And the fans can see, most of the Hearts fans can see what he's trying to do. And he just seems really positive. Like every interview, I listen to managers after the game sometimes, I think, what are you talking about? But pretty much every after-match interview, he's nailed it. He's been bang on everything he said. Yep. He just comes across a really, really good guy, really knowledgeable. And I'll be honest, I said at the time, when he got the job, I was underwhelmed looking at his previous record. Maybe that's ignorance on my part, but the job he's done recently has been so good, and long may it continue. Yeah.
Dennis, Graham talks here about being underwhelmed by Critchley, and the one thing that Hearts didn't get when he got appointed was they didn't get that bounce back. That the new manager bounce that a lot of clubs get. Hearts didn't really get that when Critchley was appointed. It's taken him a number of months to get his feet under the table, to bring in his own style of play. And I love that, I'll be honest. I love a guy who's coming in, who's been given a wee bit of time, by the Hearts board. They gave him the time. They could very easily have taken a knee-jerk reaction. I thought, no, this isn't working very early on. But they gave him the time. And certainly they've also backed him in the transfer window. So Critchley must be well thought of by the Tynecastle board.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that there would have been a few supporters actually thinking another couple of bad results and he'll be getting hounded. Whereas he has turned the corner. And whether you get it right or wrong, the bottom line is results is what it speaks for. Because again, we could go back to Stuart Kettlewell, and it didn't matter results in that area. Stuart Kettlewell had some good results, and they were on his case. So, it's all about getting the results and where Hearts are now. Hibs as well have done the same. They could easily have got rid of David Gray. They didn't. They persevered with him. And I thought at that point, they're in the worst position as far as playing standards were concerned as against Hearts. Their run has been incredible. But Hearts, I think, have got a good manager. And I think he speaks well. And his acquisitions in the window have really impressed me to the point that I felt what he's done is what's missing. You're right, Graham, you maybe could do with somebody in the channels to maybe get balls into the box. It's up to him to maybe try and make some of the players he's got available slot into that area. But overall, who would have thought for a minute you were going to get 6 goals and you say probably more against Dundee in the last game? You would never have dreamt of that going back 2 months ago. And if you look at the league, and I'm just having a quick look at now, on the last half dozen games, which I'm looking at now, Aberdeen's not won any. They've had 1 draw. Then you look at Motherwell, 1 victory. The rest been draw or defeats. And then you look at Dundee United, 2 victories. Slippy slope as well, although they're doing not too bad. But at the same time, the 2 teams that are looking in the up and up is Hibernian and Hearts. And therefore, I look at that and I say to myself, you've now got, in my eyes, a 5-way top teams. You've got Celtic, Rangers, Dundee United, Hibs and Hearts. I think Aberdeen and Motherwell will fall out of this top area. And there you would not believe at the start of the season, after a month, we'd be sitting saying that they were there. What we did say was Hearts and Hibs would not end up at the bottom of the table. Never. It was never mentioned in any conversations we have had on a Friday night. And anybody that's been on as guests have also said the same thing. And it's been true. That's what's happened. Hibs and Hearts have climbed the table, maybe a little bit more than everybody expected, but what a difference it's made. And we do need, in Scottish football, the Edinburgh Brigade to be challenging against the Old Firm. And the tester will be again. The next game that Hearts have got is against Rangers, but then I think without looking at it, you've got St Johnstone and then St Mirren. I would assume that out of the 9 points available, you could take 6 out of them, and then you could be sitting in 4th spot before too long, before the end of the month. Let's put it that way. Great. I think it's a great run, and I'm hoping they go on a good run because the supporters do deserve a lot better than what they've had in maybe the last year or so. How long would you say the run's been poor, Graham, in your eyes?
Well, we went earlier in the season. We went 8 games without a win, 8 in a row. Mm-hmm. That's probably about as bad as it's been. But there has been moments since Critchley's come in where there has kind of been a few downs. But again, there's been a lot more positivity than probably there had been for a few weeks. I think looking at the squad as well, it's still a very big squad. There's a 29-man squad there. We've managed to get rid of a few players in the window, but you've got guys like Barry Mackay that are sitting on a big wage that's still there, who probably won't play. I think we'd have liked to try and get a few more out the door. But all in all, I think the window's been very, very successful.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, as you say, it's a successful window, not just by what's come in, but the fact that you have got rid of a few fringe players, a few wages out the door as well, So I think Critchley's or the board, whoever, has got to be commended for that as well. And definitely things look on the up and up at Tynecastle for sure. I know Dennis has mentioned Edinburgh a few times and bringing Hibs into the fray there. But as I say, what you guys have done in the last number of weeks has been fantastic, and is getting a few of these fringe guys out the door, whether it's bringing in monies or whether it's just getting short of wages. I think that's something that's got to be commended too as well, Graham.
Yeah, I mean, we only signed Oyegoke and Boateng in the summer, and we've got rid of them already we made a profit on Oyegoke. So that's what Jamestown's all about. They've had a hand in this. They're not long in the door, but they've had a hand in the sale of this. We've made money from 2 players that we signed in the summer. So it's a really good deal we've got there. So again, the whole Jamestown thing, I think, is a really good thing as well. You know, nothing gets done without their basically say so, which I think is a really good thing as well. Because what it's there for is to get us to sign better standard of player that we can then sell for a profit, which we don't do enough. And I think it's a really, really good. I think it's a really, really good thing. So I think the Jamestown's got to take a lot of credit for that as well, because it's been very, very good so far.
Yeah. No, as I say, fair play. And as Dennis says, we definitely do need a strong Edinburgh. Two strong Edinburgh clubs, you know. So no, fair play indeed to what's happening here, and fair play to, as you say, Jamestown coming in. You know what you've done in conjunction with Tony Bloom. You know, is definitely absolutely fantastic. You know, so yeah, fair play, and definitely a club on the up and up with a plan. You know, and I think that's the thing, is that there seems to be some kind of plan, some kind of forward thinking within the board at Tynecastle, Graham, and that's fantastic. And can only, once you get through this season, you know, and you've started to turn things round, you know. So yeah, things definitely look on the up and up at Tynecastle, that's for sure.
Yeah. Tell me something, Graham. Boateng only come in the summer, as you say. Then you've got Xander and you've got Vargas. Now, when I look at that on the team, if they play to their potential, is just looking there on the bench at the last match, are they going to be strength to the team? I would think so, personally. But do you see them as maybe being players that will leave, or are they going to be battling away for a position and will strengthen Hearts?
Xander Clark only just recently signed a new contract. I think this will probably be Craig Gordon's last season. And then I think Xander Clark will take over, potentially Harry Stone maybe in the background. Kenny Vargas is a difficult one because he's signed a contract to 2029. He's on a long-term deal, and at the moment, he's not really shown enough for my liking. He's still young. He got 9 goals last season, first season, but this season will be very frustrating. I think there's still something there. So I think he will add to the squad.
Yeah.
But I think come the summer, we will see a massive rebuild. I think a lot of players will leave. A lot of players will come in. Obviously, Vargas will still be here. But there is definitely potential in Vargas. And I think there's no way Xander Clark signs that contract without giving guarantee that he's going to play. So I genuinely think this is probably Craig Gordon's last season, and then Xander will come back in. And I think we've been very fortunate. I've said this to a few folk. We have got 2 very, very good goalkeepers. And anywhere else, both of them would be, one of them would be regular starters at their other clubs. Xander Clark is a fantastic goalkeeper. He's just very unlucky that the guy in front of him is one of the best keepers I've seen at Hearts, and Craig Gordon. He's just phenomenal.
But is Vargas not the boy that I've mentioned him before, that basically thinks he can do better elsewhere?
Yeah, and I wasn't a fan of that. I said that at the time. I thought he was very ill-advised to come out of that, because not long after that, we then had 3 games after he said that where he missed sitters in all of them, and we lost every game. And you can't think, well, you want to test yourself against better players, but you can't do it here. Maybe you shouldn't be saying that in the press, son. So yeah, I wasn't a fan of that.
Personally, if it'd been me, I would have shipped him out. That's my opinion, because to me that doesn't help the dressing room. And supporters, if he's having a bad time, it will go on his case quite quickly then, because they think he's a big time Billy. So when you look at the whole big picture, I don't think long term he will, what would you say, have any added value to the team. And that would have been my opinion. I would have definitely been looking to think, well, we're not going to have big time Billies at this club. We'll just punt them out. But the problem you've maybe got is, what would it cost them? 2029, you said his contract was to, so that becomes a financial thing. So maybe that's the reason why. But I'm sure the manager probably had feelings the way I'm thinking about it. But we'll see if he maybe comes onto a game. But I've dismissed him in my mind as being added value. But we'll wait and see. How do you feel about the fact that Hibs are sitting above you?
It won't last. They'll Hibs it. They always do. It won't last.
No.
Tell you that right now. We'll be above them shortly.
When you have your prediction and come back on, so we know when it is.
Next 3 weeks.
Next 3 weeks, right? Okay. So by the end of the month, with the 3 fixtures you've got, you will definitely be above them. Let
It's
me
Hibs.
just
They always
while
bottle
you're
it.
digesting that, I'll go and I'll actually see who Hibs have got in the next 3 games, because
Hibs must have Celtic anyway.
sorry,
Probably Aberdeen. They must have Celtic within that period. And possibly, no, they can't get Aberdeen. They've played Aberdeen that often in the last 2 or 3 weeks. They've beat them enough.
well,
As
they've
I
got
said last
St.
week, it seemed every second week Hibs are playing
Yeah.
Aberdeen.
Well, they've got St Mirren on the 16th, so you've got St Mirren. There's a tester, and they have got Celtic, as you say, Cammy, at Easter Road on the 22nd, and then they have got they've got Dundee United on Wednesday the 26th. So if I was a betting man, I would side with you, Graham, because I think there'll be one game too many for them, and it might be even the Dundee United game. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah.
No, I think he's right. I think by the end of the month, Hearts will be above him. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whether they're sitting in third spot or not, I don't know. But yeah, Graham, I think you will be above. You will be above the high Bs, that's for sure. You know what I mean? So there we go. Graham, it must be great being you just now. Obviously, Hearts are doing fantastic, and Liverpool last night, as we said, have got to the final of the League Cup down south. They're going to play Newcastle. Both London clubs getting knocked out. Liverpool obviously putting paid to Spurs' hopes of getting to Big Angie's final in his second season. And the night before, Newcastle played Arsenal off the park, I thought. And 2-0 probably flattered the London side, you know. So enough. Newcastle, Liverpool promises to be an absolutely fantastic final in the League Cup. But Arne Slot, what a start he's having, Graham, as Liverpool manager. Top of the league, so many points clear. As you said earlier on, they've won the league side of the Champions League as well. You know, it's surrendering basically the last game that didn't mean anything. You know, but what a start he's had as manager, and his first 6 months have been absolutely tremendous.
I mean, I don't know how you even top this now. It's just been incredible. I listened to so many pundits start the season that said Liverpool will struggle to even finish top 4 this season. What do they know? Honestly, what a season it's had so far. I mean, he's not really changed that much. He's brought in Chiesa, who's very rarely played, but the difference he's made in certain players as well, like Gravenberch, has been outstanding. Gakpo has had an absolutely brilliant season so far. Mo Salah just keeps up his goal-scoring run. Van Dijk just looks so cool, so composed. He barely broke sweat last night. It's been stunning, the job he's done. Now, I know folk will say, but it's Jurgen Klopp's team. It is, but even still, you're coming at a team that you've never been at before. You might want to change a few bits and pieces, and he's done that, and it's been incredible. And last night, I was very confident going to that game last night because it was Tottenham, and I'm very confident with Liverpool are playing just now. I had no qualms about that game last night. It was so comfortable. Yeah. Newcastle's going to be a tough game. They're a very good side, and Isak is probably the best striker in Europe just now. He's been frightening. But there's no reason that Liverpool shouldn't go into that game with full confidence the way we're playing just now. And it's been fantastic. You know, slot ball has been incredible. And we've got a game in hand against Everton on Wednesday. That's going to be difficult. The last game at Goodison in the Derby, that's going to be very difficult. But win that, we're 9 points clear. And I think a look at Arsenal and Liverpool. Arsenal are the team I think can really win the title. But, and this is no disrespect to Arsenal, you're not going to win a title with Kai Havertz up front. He's not good enough. So yeah, honestly, I honestly think we've got a great chance here.
Listen, that was going to be my follow-up, because I've already had a rave about Havertz. The other one you've got as well is Trossard. And then the other one he throws on is Sterling. And I said that 2 or 3 weeks ago on here. I said, if you have those 3 players playing for you as your front line, you can forget it. And I'll tell you what, Arsenal will not win the Premiership.
No, not a chance.
No chance. And that is a major contributing factor, believe it or not. And the simple reason being, he's not addressed it. I think he's quite cocky, maybe good for a manager, Arteta, but I think he's maybe deluded as well that these guys are going to do a job for him. And it's not going to work. Definitely not going to work, because I've watched them. I watched them against Man City, which they actually, well, what would you say, ran amok. But we could go into Man City in a minute or two. But against Newcastle, they just weren't at the races, seriously. And when they get chances, you've got to convert. You know, there it is. It's 4-0 in aggregate. A team like Arsenal, if they're that good, should be at least getting 1 or 2 goals out of that, the two matches there.
Yeah.
So, no, just on the touching of that, to me, I can't see Notts Forest overpowering Liverpool. I certainly can't see Chelsea when they're 13 points adrift. And then Man City and Newcastle are sitting 15 points adrift. You could almost say that now. You just give Liverpool the championship. And I'll tell you what, last night they were absolutely magnificent. Magnificent. And, you know, they were looking like the way Man City were of old. Unstoppable. And last night, that's what I felt. They were really entertaining. Great game to watch. And Tottenham are Tottenham. And you can't say too much about them. But I do feel that I think Aston Villa, I'm just running through a bit of the Premier League here in my head. They've got the FA Cup, I think, against Aston Villa on Sunday away, Tottenham. And I think if they get turned over big time, I think Ange Postecoglou could be in a shaky nail because it's no turning right from him. I know he's still got about 10 or 11 injured players, but it's results. It's results. And I think maybe his time will be up after that.
Yeah, I think the less said about Spurs, the better. You know, let's concentrate on the positives. You know, and what's happening at Anfield for sure. You know, and I mean, Graham, I'm astonished you're so few points ahead. You know, because to me, Liverpool's the only side who's been shown any measure of consistency at all in the Premier League this season. You know, Manchester City have been absolutely dire at times. Arsenal as well. You know, have been very, very poor. Chelsea went in that bad run after obviously the player failed the drugs test. You know, so no, I mean, I'm astonished that the gap's so few points, because to me, Liverpool have been by far and away the dominant force in the Premier League this season, and also that's obviously extending into the cup competitions too. You know, so it's been a fantastic start for Slot, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the only side we failed to beat is Nottingham Forest. We got beat at Anfield and then drew at the City ground, so we can't beat Nottingham Forest. But it's been unbelievable. Like, honestly, I couldn't be any prouder of the team so far. And to be in the cup final with still a chance to win the treble, it's fantastic. And even watching on his Slot's press conferences, he seems very calm. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. He seems really good with the press. He'll have a joke and stuff. And again, there's always a thing about why did Liverpool not strengthen the January window? Is it FSG? I think it's generally because Slot thinks he's got a squad that's capable of winning this without anyone else, which is fine. You know, and I think you had Jota back on the bench as well yesterday. Darwin Núñez actually I thought looked pretty decent yesterday. You've got Diaz on the bench. Alisson didn't even start, neither did Trent. You've got a very, very good squad there. And, you know, I could wax lyrical about Mo Salah, how good he's been this season. Mm-hmm. He's just gone at a different level again this season, and he does it every season. It's like, when's he going to stop? But he just doesn't. He's frightening. And I think, like every Liverpool fan, I am hoping, really hoping, that him, Trent, and Van Dijk sign new contracts. That's the one thing we're looking for. They sign new contracts, happy days. But I honestly, Van Dijk yesterday was just colossus. Gets his goal. Him and Kanate is such a good partnership at the back. I thought Connor Bradley was outstanding yesterday. There's so many positives. I could wax lyrical all night. There's so many positives to take.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. He's brought in a few youngsters, you know. He's brought in likes of Connor Bradley. You know, Jones is playing well, you know. So, I mean, they are looking by far and away, as I say, the most dominant force. And the only possible downside for that, as you say, is Trent, you know, Van Dijk and Salah haven't committed to the club. I think there's obviously Salah does appear to be almost resigned to being somewhere else. But if you can hold on to the centre half and the right back, then that's at least something.
Absolutely. I mean, to be honest, the one I really want to stay is Van Dijk, because he's so good defensively.
Yeah.
I'd love them all to stay, and players come and go all the time. I was gutted when Luis Suarez left, but would have replaced him. I was gutted when Fernando Torres left, but would have replaced him. Players can be replaced, but Van Dijk's the one for me that is really difficult to replace. To get a centre half as good as that, as commanding as that, is very difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, you look around the corner up the M62, or the M, whatever it is, at Manchester United, they're still struggling to replace like Rio Ferdinand, or whatever else, what the best they can come up with is Harry Maguire, so you're right. Good centre halves are very, very difficult to replace. And that can take a hell of a long time, to replace them. But talking about Manchester United, what's more important, Manchester United men or Manchester United ladies? If you're Alan Brazil, it's definitely the men, but if you're Shabana Hearn, she's more intent on obviously seeing how important the women are at Manchester United. I must admit, I tend to agree with Alan Brazil, and as much as I think, yes, that whilst the women's game is gaining in popularity, I think most Manchester United fans really only do care about if the men can turn things around. Graham, what's your thoughts before we come on to Dennis?
So to put this into context, I was listening to this a couple of days ago. So it was a talk sport. Shabana Hearn was talking about, I can't remember what it was called. It was Mission something. But it was basically...
Mission 21 and Mission 1.
That was it. But it was basically Man United women trying to win the WSL. And she was talking about how it's important for the Man United women to obviously win this. And Alan Brazil wasn't having it. He said that most Man United fans don't care. It's about the men's game. Now, there were some parts I agreed with, but it's the way he put his point across. It was quite kind of ignorant and very demeaning of Shaban, who actually stood up to him very well. She basically called him a dinosaur and stuff. I watch Hearts women quite a lot, and is the standard fantastic? It's not brilliant, but it's still a decent game at times. But it's more the way that it's not what Brazil said, it's how he put it across that I didn't really like. He was very, very dismissive, I thought. And, women's game, okay, maybe it's... I think there is definitely a lot of good things happening. And to be fair, he actually did say the women's game is getting a lot more stuff about it, which is fine. But I just thought the way he put it across was very dismissive.
Yeah.
And that's what I found a bit disappointing for me, was the way he put it across.
Dennis, I've only read, and I was reading it there whilst we were chatting, I've read Brazil's comments. And yeah, whilst I agree with a lot of what he said, I haven't heard the tone, I haven't heard how it was put across. I think, as we say, the women's game is up and coming. As Graham says, there's a lot of positives coming through from the women's game. Whether you agree with the fact that that's a good thing or not, I think we have to look at the fact that Brazil's 65. And I think Jeff Stelling's come out and he's been very, very critical of Shabana Hearn for calling Brazil a dinosaur, basically taking that it's been referred to as his age rather than a point of view which may be well outdated, So there's definitely arguments happening at Talk Sport, Dennis, that's for sure, over women's football and dinosaurs and everything else.
You're asking the dinosaur. So what's the point of me putting my tuppence worth in if I'm a dinosaur as well?
No, I didn't say that. As I say, that's what Stelling's come out in the first.
So where do you go from there?
No, I know, but that's it.
Okay, right. I'm not going to have a rant about this because I have an objection with the money that's spent on women's football at the top flight, and I call it value for money. I think when there's lesser teams having to scrimp and scrape to get on pitches at the lower divisions, women seem to have no, what would you say, they'll get the Ferrari before the license. Whereas I look at guys that are in amateur parts tomorrow, busting a gut, really trying to, what would you say, achieve a goal of maybe playing in a senior pitch at some time in their life. If the park's not like a bowling green with these so-called women footballers at the top flight, they're going about moaning moaning their head off. Whether I'm a dinosaur to make that comment about them, I don't care. But every corner, it's as if they're looking for attention. Now, I'm not going to go too far with this, but what I will say is, if you turn out and have a Messi or a Ronaldo or a goalkeeper that can stop a shot, I'll start to sit up and listen. At this moment in time, I dip in to watch women's football and come back out of it. And it's slightly improving. So it's not a total negative. But the money gets injected into it that Scottish football, as an example, doesn't have. You know, I mean, you look at some of these trips, the money's not generated through people coming through the gate when Scottish camps away in Spain, sunning themselves, doing their training, which is great. But we don't have that amount of cash in the financial climate that Scottish football's in to be, what would you say, allowing that to happen. I would love that there was money there and splash it around and the women's game comes on, because I'll tell you what, I would rather be in the stands listening to the banter, watching a football match with ladies playing, than some of the stuff we have discussed in the last couple of weeks, with the vile stuff that's coming out of guys in the terracings. So from that point of view, I would go and watch it tomorrow. But it needs to be a standard that you're getting entertained. The level is miles away from where people will sit up and say it's good. Now, people get sucked into this trap, and females get up marams when they're asked the question because guys are no singing the praises of it. Guys are 9 times out of 10. I think Brazil has probably been quite abrupt with it. I might be abrupt if I was asked the question the wrong way. But I'll go back to it again. The product, it's not so much it's fit for purpose, but they seem to think that they're in a level playing field with men. They're not. They're miles away from it talent-wise. I've yet to see a female goalkeeper that can actually get across the box and stop balls going into the top corner. It's as if the females goalkeepers are ones that didn't make it as an outfield player, so they go inside and they end up as goalkeepers. My view has been for a long while that a female, and I'll tell you what, there have been some good strikes with females scoring goals, but a lot of them are stoppable if you've got an average goalkeeper. And I think if the game was maybe addressed that you could see good goalkeepers, it might improve it a little bit. You might say, well, why? I'll say because every time I see it and a female strikes a ball for, say, the edge of the box, hit the target, it's a goal. That's a bit extreme, and I don't want it to be extreme, but come back to us, stop looking for attention, stop moaning when things don't go your way, go and get the product on the park, and a dinosaur like me will be really tempted to go and watch it.
Yeah. Graham, for those who don't know, and I include yourself in that, Dennis and I, a number of years ago, actually had a kind of a meeting of wills, or however you want to call it. We had a female player on the show a number of times. And as I say, I'm going back 10 years, you know, and it's the radio show Dennis and I used to do. And Helen would very, very regularly describe women's football as a product entirely different from the men's game. For long enough, I felt women, they didn't want to be associated with the men's game. But now you have females who are pundits on the men's game. And I think that sort of differential is no longer there, where the game of women's football is regarded as a different product from that of the men's game. And I think that's part of the problem that a lot of people maybe have with the women's game, is that they try to draw comparisons between that and what women themselves considered as an entirely different sport in men's football a number of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is, I'm going to caveat this. What I will say is a lot of good stuff happening in women's game, and Hearts women have been fantastic this season. Eva Oll's done a fantastic job. Me and my lad have been in a couple of games, and some of the football's been pretty decent. So I am going to caveat that by saying there's a lot of good things. But I've also had this conversation with a couple of guys on my other podcast that I do, and I've seen quite a few games where, like, I set up flash score, and if I don't watch a game, I'll set up flash score. And for example, you see Glasgow City, Rangers or Celtic, a team 12 or 13-0, and I think, what's the point? I mean,
yes.
What are the ladies in that other team learning from that? You're just getting hammered every single week. I can't remember who it was. I think it wasn't Glasgow City, it was Glasgow Women or something. they were getting consistently hammered 14, 15-0 every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that cannot be good for confidence. What are you learning from that? And as well, I think there are some really good women pundits. There's also some terrible ones. And I've no issue with women pundits. I'll be like Joey Barton in a minute, but I've no issue with them. Some of them are actually far better than men. And I've no problem with that at all if they're good at their job. But if I went to, I love football, but I'm not going to be a great pundit. But if I hear women that actually talk sense, and I'm like, do you know what? That's fine. There's a lot of men who talk absolute nonsense. I've no issue with women coming at the game at all, as long as they know what they're talking about and they're good at it. That's what some of the issue, I think, is as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of them are there. Let's be honest, it's the old box ticking exercise. You know, let's see how many females we can get. Let's see how many people of colour we can get. You know, let's see what we can do in terms of a sporting organisation or a media organisation. Let's see how many boxes we can tick. And I'm in total agreement with you. If a woman's a good commentator or a good pundit, and I'll be honest, I love Anna. Is it Anna Winstonholm? You know, the female boxing commentator or whatever you want to call her. You know, who covers women's boxing for Sky, or who's a woman who covers men's boxing for Sky. I think she's absolutely fantastic at what she does. You know, Kelly Dalglish's daughter's another one. You know, is really, really good at what she does. But again, it's like everything else. They have to be in that position through talent, not just purely and simply through box ticking. But I think we're moving the argument possibly further away from where it should have been, you know. But at the end of the day, I think, bringing it back to Alan Brazil, I think Brazil was right. You know, at the end of the day, most football fans are more concerned with Manchester United men winning their 21st title rather than women winning their WSL. It'd be great for Manchester United women, yes, but I don't think necessarily it'd be great for Manchester United Football Club. Full stop.
I just think they want to encroach in the men's game without having earned it. That's my feeling. You just need to go through. If you've done it tonight, maybe not just every night, but there's always women's football on, right? Go and watch it all day long if that's your cup of tea. I've nothing against it. But I don't want it rammed down my throat. That there's a women's element of the game, great. There's a man's element of the game. It's a bit like me watching your American football, Cammy. I'm not going to come on and slaughter it, but because I know nothing about it. But I think I know a little bit about football. And what I do see is the standard of the women's football wanting to come on board with the men's game is not ready yet. It's not ready. It will be at one point, but this dinosaur will probably not be on this planet. So the thing about it is, until it gets there, let's go and work at your craft. Go and stop moaning that you're not getting enough press coverage. I mean, we had that with the Scotland team. They weren't happy because they weren't getting enough press coverage. And I'm thinking, is it not about playing football? It's not about your ego and attention seeking that you obviously desire rather than play football. So if anyone wants to debate that, I'm open to it. Whether a dinosaur, whether you can hardly walk, it doesn't matter. And as far as pundits are concerned, I would rather listen to Rio Ferdinand, Lineker and Shearer all day long who have seen it, done it and played at this level than a female that's maybe got 50 caps playing against, as Graham rightly said, some teams are getting beat 15-0. That doesn't give you any education in football whatsoever. So I'm sorry, as far as female pundits are concerned and commentators, no for me. And it's not to say they're not entitled to have the job, but what I will say is, listening to Ali McCoist last night, okay, he's Scottish. He's a breath of fresh air. He's probably the best commentator we've had in a long number of years. Now, if you can get me a female that's as knowledgeable about the game as him, then I will sit and listen and applaud her. We don't have that. We have so many that are using cliches that is beyond belief. And if you sat down and put them in a studio, other than them being cued to come in with what their thoughts are, they sit there and then they come out with a big spiel. And I'm thinking, you're not bringing anything to the game for me. Now, again, I'll go back. If they're good enough, they should be there. Just now, they're still cutting their teeth. So I'm going to finish the rant there because it sounds a bit unfair, but it's not ready for me, the women's game. If you want to watch the women's game, I've nothing against it. And I'm delighted that they're enjoying it. But please don't be ramming it down their throats.
I was going with Dennis mentioned Rio Ferdinand, who is the worst pundit ever.
Well, we need to agree to disagree. I'll listen to him all day long because he's played at the top flight, Graham. And we need disrespect to you or me or Cammy. He could leave us standing with the game. He's seen it, done it, and he's been an excellent player as well. How he portrays it over the TV might be everybody's view of it, but from where I stack up, no, we always got to differ, aren't we? It's only your opinion. You're quite entitled to that. And we can agree to disagree in that one. What do you think is wrong with him then?
He just offers nothing. He was a fantastic player, absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But his punditry for me is he offers nothing. He offers no insight. He offers no tactical analysis. It's just nonsense for me. He honestly is one of the worst pundits on there.
Well, you've got me thinking now because I think he's good and I'm going to listen to him in depth and I'm going to get a few wee lines for the next time we're on. Good, bad or indifferent. There you are. Because I've never noticed it, honestly. And I did throw his name in the ring because he's one of the ones I listen to. So therefore, we're entitled to opinions. That's why we're here tonight.
Yeah, indeed. There's something else we discussed in the pre-production meeting. It was one of these ones where we're saying how much controversy can we court tonight, but certainly not looking for controversy, but it's something that's reared its head, I think, a number of games. And certainly it's been doing it for years and years. But I think it's becoming more and more obvious as players who are on the park who are being very, very blatant in the fact of what religion they follow, shall we say. But we've seen it at a number of games recently, where players of all sorts of various religions, be they Muslim, be they Christian, be they whatever they decide they want to be, where they are bringing that onto the park. And I think we're at a position now where, with the amount of bile that's being generated at times from the fans, and that's been going on for years and years. But I think we're at a stage now where something has to be done about players openly celebrating the religion on the park, whether they're scoring goals, whether they're coming on as a substitute or whatever else, giving thanks to Allah, giving thanks to whoever it may be. Graham, what's your thoughts on players openly celebrating their religion? Is there a place for it in the game, or should that be something that's left in the dressing room?
I have no issue with anyone's religious beliefs at all. Everyone's entitled to do whatever they want.
100%.
In terms of football, I think that should be left in the dressing room. When you come onto that park and you're doing stuff like that, it's just going to incite the fans who, we all know, fans are very, very fickle, and they will jump on the smallest thing. And something like that, we've seen it numerous times where players bless themselves and stuff, and it just entices the fans. If you've got religious beliefs, absolutely no problem with that at all. Everyone's entitled to that. But I think when it comes to football, celebrate a different way. Leave that kind of stuff in the dressing room.
Dennis?
Well, I mentioned it. It was probably me.
Can you top that? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, I raised it because watching the Rangers game, and as you say, Cammy, it's gone down through the years, and people at children just pick it up. And an example of that's Egan, right? He's playing with Rangers. He scored a few goals now, and he's been finishing well, right? But he's beginning to get cocky on it, and I mentioned this last week. But now what I'm seeing him doing, now whether he's done it for the beginning, it's not stood out as much. He's actually gone to the pitch like this at half time, and he stood there for about 20 seconds. And he actually looked at the corner of his eye to see the camera was on him. And I'm like, why, again, it's back to this attention seeking. Why does he need that? And I've stated a long while ago, see if your religious beliefs are like that, don't take them onto a pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Do not take them onto the pitch. If you look at what we have in Scotland, especially the west of Scotland, Celtic Rangers. Now, if he can come onto the park and give it all this, I'm nothing against his religion, None of the religion bothers me. It's everybody to their own thing, the same as Graham's done. But what I find offensive is that it can be a touch paper to how aggressive supporters can be. And if they've got a religion, why you ram it down their throat? I've just used that twice with the women's football, and now we're on to this about putting it down people's throat. We don't need it. You can do all this in the dressing room, and managers should instruct players, do not be out there doing your religious beliefs. You're out there to play football, son, nothing else, right? Mm-hmm. You imagine, and I've just used Egeman, a Catholic player at Rangers, who Rangers have tolerated, and he goes out there and he stands for 20 seconds before, this is half-time we're talking about, stands in the touchline for 20 seconds and blesses himself, whatever it is, right? Does that. Do you think he'll be a fan's favourite? They'll be wanting to maul him if he has a bad game. That's the way it is, right? So I think it's a thing that we could rectify quite easily. I look down south, and another one that jumps out in front of me as well is the wee boy Sterling. All of a sudden, he didn't do that way back. All of a sudden, it's all this, oh, hallelujah, and whatever they want to do. And as I say, I've no problem with it, but please do it in the dressing room, because I find it offensive. There is no need for it. You don't need the attention. And what's happening is youngsters will start this. Youngsters will start this because they pick up everything players do. And it's not right. And I don't think it brings anything to the game, other than the fact, I'll use the word again, because it's obviously my dinosaur night. Dinosaurs don't like it.
Yeah, but Graham, as Dennis says, you know, it can be deemed as offensive, you know, which perhaps when we're talking about people's religious beliefs is kind of the wrong terminology, you know, in terms of obviously, I think what Dennis is saying is what Dennis is saying is the fact that the religious acts are offensive, not obviously the religions themselves are offensive.
No, that's right. Yeah.
But it is the fact that it can be inciting the fans, you know, that there's certain things that players are not allowed to do, that, you know, that we're at a stage there where they can't, you know, let's get back to the last World Cup, you know, they couldn't reveal their drawers or the, you know, or a t-shirt or whatever else because there might have been some kind of message on them, you know. So for the fact that if you're out on the park and you're giving thanks to Allah or you're blessing yourself or you're doing whatever it is, that could well incite the fans in what is already an inflammatory atmosphere, you know, and I think we've discussed last week the situation or the alleged situation with Stuart Kettlewell, you know, in terms of getting abuse from fans or a small minority of Motherwell fans as it's come to light, you know. But I think you're at a situation there now where that kind of thing could well incite violence, or could incite the crowd. As Dennis says, if we have a Catholic player at Ibrox, you know, wanting to do something like that, bless himself or whatever as he goes on to the park, he's never going to get away with that anyway, you know. But by the same token,
it's a double standard. It's double standard saying, you know, if the manager to go, you can't do that, son. You know, they hate the Celtic side of it, and that's part of it. You're not allowed to do that. Well, what about the other people with different religions?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
you stamp the lot out. And it shouldn't happen. There's no need.
Totally agree. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You stamp it out because it can be insightful, not because it's offensive, Graham.
Yeah, it just takes one incident, and it just takes one or two fans to go absolutely crazy, and that's what kicks it all off. So yeah, I mean, I think, as I say, religion. I don't mind what anyone does religiously. It's entirely up to them, as Dennis said, each to their own. But I think when it comes to that kind of thing, I think it does need left in house, and as well. And I think, again, this is for another show as well, but you've already got supporters who can't stand still for a minute's silence. They just sing songs and all that kind of stuff. So it only takes one thing to entice these fans to then react, and it's bad enough already. You know, there's far too much of this going around just now where fans cannot behave, and yeah. I don't think it's a good thing personally.
No, yeah. But just taking that on then, Cammy, when you say fans can't behave, because we don't need to spend too much longer on this of fans' behaviour. But when you look at Brendan Rodgers saying tonight that he was delighted that Celtic hadn't been banned from the away game against Bayern Munich because of the flare
Celtic fans
going onto the pitch. I'm sorry, he did say that the fans will not listen to him anyway, so it was a question, a sort of a tongue-in-cheek, I'll just dismiss this question. In my eyes, he sort of a body swerved it. And again, it's probably this Parkhead thing again, where they just seem to brush it under the carpet unless it's affecting them. Now, it'll cost them, but the Celtic support are allowed to go to Germany when he said that that fan didn't get into that game just in his own singular and have that flair that nobody else around about him knew about. So to me, I think that they have to look a bit deeper at this and stop passing the buck. Supporters across the land have got to start being accountable for their behaviour. I watched the rugby last week, I think I mentioned it, and the atmosphere is night and day. You've not got people with faces like me, dour-faced. They're all smiley, they're all happy, and they're delighted to go and watch the rugby. And then you can turn it over and watch a football match. Oh, wow. It's like World War III with the faces and the abuse and everything that goes on. And I think football is just still decent. Let's not kid ourselves. Still decent, right? And if you look at, we've just been talking about adventures, Hearts adventure, Liverpool. That's great to watch. But there's an element where you've got to look at it and say, you can't go out to war on a Saturday afternoon to watch a football match.
Yep.
And you can't be bringing the club down with it. Hence the thing I was bringing up. Why do they need to put a flare on the park when it's costing the club money, which in turn doesn't get recycled back into the team because you're paying out fines? So I really find it quite irritating that people think it's worthwhile to go to the game and throw flares, or we'll go back to the abuse side of it. But why, Graham, do you sit in an area that has this kind of abuse, or do you tolerate it round about you, or does it not happen?
No, I mean, it's usually abuse towards the referee, to be fair, but there's been nothing, there's very little that happens at Tynecastle that has that kind of thing around it. But I mean, I would like to think Celtic have been done for this numerous times. You'd like to think that somebody, when somebody's taking a flare in, one of the mates is going, "What you doing? We've been fined for you're going to get in trouble."
Yeah.
But clearly nobody does it. There's no self-policing to say, "Wait a minute, what you doing? We got fined the last time, we're going to get fined again. Stop doing it." But clearly nobody's doing that. I would like to think if somebody did that, somebody would say, "Stop it. We're going to get fined. Don't do it."
Yeah, but they don't seem to do it. And I mean, Dennis, we've been guilty, I think yourself, me, Andy, a number of guests we've had on the show, a number of guys that come on with us. Regularly we talk about this kind of thing. We talked about the abuse last week that Stuart Kettlewell got at games. You know, we've spoke about things as a society problem, you know. But let's be honest, you said yourself there, you watched the rugby last week and it was night and day. It's not a society problem. A lot of it is a football problem.
Yeah, without a doubt. But then what do you start to do? Say that the working class is not able to, what would you say, control herself, and being snobby about it. The upper class predominantly used to go and watch rugby. Well, I disagree with that. There's not really any class in my head. It's how people tribally decide to go to football matches and act like animals, where it's like one is trying to impress the other by how outrageous he could because he's got a bottle of Buckfast down his throat. The rugby supporters don't look at it as an afternoon of going out and getting absolutely wrecked on drink. They go there, they'll have a few drinks, but I'll tell you what, anything I've seen in the rugby, I've not seen people getting ejected because they're out there not with a drink. And yet, rugby's renowned for them having a right good session with drink. So I've got a feeling it's maybe more the tribal thing that I've mentioned, that basically they want to show off to each other and, look at me, I've got a flare, I threw it in the park. Well, I'm sorry. The days have actually got to be numbered, and people have got to be accountable for this. Otherwise, our game will come to a standstill. And that's why I go back to the female end. Female matches would be great to go and watch. Maybe lacking the numbers to give you the same atmosphere. But I'll tell you what, it's still a good family sport. And maybe there's a point where you don't want the guys to get too involved. Because I remember there was a match I went to, and I think Celtic or Rangers or something like that was away, and I was over at Hamilton Accies, and a brigade of either Old Firm supporters come in, and there was maybe about 50 of them, and you went to herd them. Absolutely shocking. And that's what you don't want following football about either women or men. So I just wish people would sit up and, stop spoiling the game. It's ridiculous that we're not sitting here spending more time talking about the good goals that we've seen. Say the other night with Celtic scoring 6 against Dundee when 3 of the goals were absolutely magnificent, and that's what we should be starting to get back to. But unfortunately, other things take place, and we just feel that we need to expand on it.
Yeah. Well, Graham, we managed to chat last week. As I said, our longest podcast last week with Andy Millen. We actually went for 90 minutes, believe it or not. We don't want to do that tonight. We would like to talk about some of the football that's been happening rather than the controversial things that we've spent the last 20 minutes talking about. But we did open the show talking about how fantastic Hearts have been, how well Arne Slot's done for Liverpool, So there definitely has been a lot of positives happening on the park, Dennis. But do we want tonight to take some time out to look at some results and to look at the upcoming fixtures this weekend? Or do we want to spend the next 10 minutes talking about Stuart Kettlewell?
No, we'll leave Stuart to simmer, I think. We've kind of gone through that. But what I will say is Andy came up with a good point last week. I think he'd been at a function or whatever. And it was he was talking about supporters giving him stick, right? And Andy, no doubt, with the amount of games he's played, over 700 top-class senior games in Scotland, has had everybody would mount verbal volleys. And he said to the guy, he said, I'll tell you what, see you next week. What'd you pay again? He says, 30 quid. He says, right, here, there's 30 quid. I'll come outside with you and slaughter you for an hour and a half. And the boy just went, oh, no. And that's what it's about, isn't it? You're entitled to shout, but absolutely abuse and getting slaughtered. No. So anyway, sorry. What you want to start with? Do we want to leave the Premier League? Because obviously we've sort of spoke roughly on that. The fixtures from last week was a great result on Wednesday for Celtic, 6-0 against Dundee. Then Celtic winning the Sunday before that, 3-1 against Motherwell. Brilliant result for Rangers. I think they're beginning now to come a wee bit more in stream. And Ross County are shambolic, and I would really put my money on them going down in it. I really would. There was a wee spell I thought they'd a wee bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but I think now they're really in the slippy slope.
Graham, who has been the worst side you've seen at Tynecastle this season, other than Hearts, obviously?
Yeah.
Dennis is saying he feels Ross County has been shambolic. Who do you feel has been the poorest side you've seen coming to Tynecastle this season?
Probably St Mirren were the worst I'd seen. When we beat them 4-0 in Critchley's first game, they were awful. Dundee weren't great. But yeah, I mean, I've always said that I think Ross County are going to struggle again this season because they don't have enough quality. I've always said that. They don't have enough quality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're agreeing on that one, Graham.
This is a tough one because I've said that again start of the season, and I'm going to stick with the prediction I made start of the season. I still think St Johnstone will go down, but Ross County will be in the playoff again. Yeah.
You could toss a coin between the two of them, between you and I. I don't think there's muchness there. And then you just look at it, and I'll tell you what, Kilmarnock have got to watch. I know they've picked up the win here and there, but I still think that they are not a great team. I would love to see them getting rid of that pitch. I think it would make a massive difference to them. But anyway, looking at the Hearts game, what a result. We've expanded a bit on that. Graham, you would never have dreamt of that result, would you?
No, I said before the game 2-1. I don't think anyone expected 6-0. But like I said, it could have been more. We had chances second half to absolutely get 10 there. It was it was a complete performance. It was fantastic. And yeah, I was buzzing last week.
Yeah. Has that been the highlight of the season then?
I'd probably have to say it is, yeah. I think it's been by far the best result this season. Best performance away from home, especially as well. That made it even better.
Does it tell us something then, maybe about Europe? Is there mileage to be playing in Europa League and Conference League? Is that something then? Because you did touch on that when we discussed this earlier, and I mentioned it early in the season as well. That I thought the decline on the likes of Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, they seemed to, there was like Hearts. The standards seemed to drop when the Champions League was taking its toll with that extra game during the week. Do you feel that maybe it's something that out with the old firm, it's something that maybe we really shouldn't be highlighting too much, because the what would you say, the drain on resources of physical competition is maybe too much for the teams?
Yeah, I mean, Europe's brilliant. Don't get me wrong, I love being in Europe, money you get for the wins and stuff, but playing Thursday, Sunday is very difficult. We didn't have the squad to cope with that. We didn't have the consistency to cope with that. We didn't win a game after the European game. So that is how tough it was. So I actually think, and I said this to mates as well, as much as I love European football, I think it has benefited us being out of it now, that we can concentrate solely in the league. I know a lot of folk won't agree with that, but that has been a massive, massive help, I think. The fact we're not playing Thursday, Sunday.
Yeah. Carrying on, Hibs had a good result against Aberdeen, 2-0. St Mirren went down 1-0 to St Johnstone, and Kilmarnock had a great result. That is a right good result against Dundee United, 1-0. We look at the fixtures. I think now what we're doing is we're away to the 15th before we get anywhere. What we've got coming up next is the Scottish Cup. Just now, Hibs and Ayr United are drawing nothing each, 23 minutes played. And tomorrow we've got Dundee are playing, and just bear with me, Dundee are playing Airdrie. Airdrie. Livingston have Cove Rangers, St Johnstone, Hamilton Accies, and Celtic Raith Rovers. Good money earners for the likes of Raith Rovers. The ties there, I don't know. Andy Millen has said that if he really rates Livingston, who have been going exceptionally well, but I don't know. I think Cove Rangers could maybe be a shock to them. It's highly unlikely, but I'll stick my head out in that one. Dundee, Airdrie, any shocks there, guys?
Nah, no. Yeah. No, what I will say is I don't think Airdrie put 6 past Dundee.
No, that's true. What about St Johnstone, Hamilton?
I fancy Hamilton.
Yeah. Graham, yourself? Because we're talking about them near the bottom.
I'd go for St Johnstone to win that. I think it won't be easy, but I would go for St Johnstone at home.
Aye. I think that's a hard one to predict. On the Sunday, here's a tester. Aberdeen have Dunfermline Athletic at 12:30. Where do you go with your manager at Aberdeen if Dunfermline manage to get something out of this?
I don't think they will. I think Aberdeen will have enough for that one, I'll be honest. I think Aberdeen at home will have enough for that one. But Dunfermline have fallen away as well, Every managed to beat Dunfermline a couple of weeks ago, So, no, I quite fancy Dunfermline for that one, Graham. Aberdeen for that one, Graham, sorry.
The longer that game goes at 0-0, the more nervous Aberdeen will get. I think if Dunfermline might get the first goal, they could easily win that game. But I would fancy Aberdeen.
Yeah, I would expect so. And of course, Rangers got Queen's Park at 3:30 on the Sunday. Great day for Queen's Park, probably good money earner. But I can't see any further on Rangers in that one. And then you've got Monday's game, which is yourself, Graham. St Mirren, you've got at Paisley. So do you think you'll get into the next round?
I think it's very difficult. We're on a good run. Away from home is not easy, and the Premiership side. I think this could easily go extra time, but I'm going to go for my own team to sneak it 2-1 in extra time. I think it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Here's a thought for you. Would you take Hibs going through and Hearts going out?
No,
but I only asked that obviously in terms of the league.
Never want Hibs to get one over on us. Never.
No, just in terms obviously for the league. And in terms of, Hibs have got extra games in the cup.
No, because Hibs could win the cup, and I can't have
that. Hey, there's more chance of Dennis looking a dinosaur than Hibs winning the cup, mate.
Well, to be honest, I'm a bit like Graham. I wouldn't want my closest opposition to go any further.
No, I agree with you. I just thought it was a pertinent question. I totally agree.
Yeah. When we look at the championship, you've only got one game on Saturday, which is Falkirk against Partick Thistle. Moving into the next division, fixtures rather than look at anything else, we have Alloa have Dumbarton, Arbroath Inverness Cally, Montrose Alloa, and Stenhousemuir have got Queen of the South. Cove Rangers are playing Montrose on Tuesday. And as far as that league is concerned, Cammy, would you have thought that Stenhousemuir were going to be at the top at this point in the season?
Maybe not this point in the season, but we spoke earlier on in the season with James Kane, discussed Stenhousemuir's prospects, and I definitely did think there'd be a top 4 side. But in terms of leading it, I don't know. But the one thing you've got there is there's no side getting any level of consistency at all. Be it Arbroath, who we thought were going to push on, but they've fallen away in the last couple of weeks. To right at the foot of the table, Inverness, since they lost their 15 points, have actually hit a bit of form. So it's one of these things.
My tip for the tops, Inverness. What would that be like if Inverness actually managed to win that? I think it's highly unlikely. But
I would say take away your points deduction, Dennis, and you're actually looking at a top 4 spot.
Well, the gap between them is 13 points from 9th spot in that division to the top. And if you take the top 6 in that division, there's only 5 points between them. A really tight league. I think we've mentioned that before, actually, that it's a really tight league. Yeah,
there's no side putting the run together.
I'll just mention back, and obviously before we go into the fixtures, your bogey team, Cammy, turned you over again. Bonnyrigg Rose beating Clyde 2-1. What do you think of that? Come on. You need to have a wee rant on the back of where your team is going, because you're still at your 9th spot. I thought there was a wee indicator that you might have actually been going somewhere, but it seems to have backfired a wee bit in recent months, is it not?
Darren Young in the last few weeks has seen his side, as we've talked about in the past, decimated by injury. They really have been. There was a time there they were only managing to field 3 substitutes, and 2 of them were injured. So I mean they really were decimated, and the other one was a goalkeeper. So that they really have been ruined by injury. And any hopes I think that Darren Young had of getting his side in the top 4 have fallen away. Bonnyrigg Rose, the pitch is absolutely dreadful, but I will say it's the same for both sides. But obviously Bonnyrigg are playing on it 18 times a season, whereas the visitors only play on it twice a season. And I think that's the difference. The park was dreadful again last week by the looks of things. And Bonnyrigg Rose again ran out deserved winners. Clyde cannot take any points away from home at all. They're back at home again tomorrow against Stranraer, and I think they should turn things round. They've got a couple of signings, so they should turn things round and get a victory tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, Bonnyrigg's playing Peterhead, Clyde Stranraer, Forfar Edinburgh City, Spartans against East Fife, and still in Albion have got Elgin City. Bottom of the league, Forfar. Second bottom, Clyde. And then you've got I'll tell you what, it's a 6-pointer in a lot of ways, because you've got Stranraer, they're sitting a point above you, Clyde, and therefore you could leapfrog them, Cammy, and leave them a wee bit behind you. Top of the league is obviously, as it's been for a while, East Fife. Peterhead dipped them a little bit, but I still think that was my tip. They've got a chance still to come back. And the other team that's been doing really well is Elgin. And again, top 3, there's only 5 points between them. And then the next 5 teams, have all got a shout that they can get into that 4th spot. So there's still quite a bit to be playing for there, So
it's a tight league again, as most of the lower leagues are, it is tight. Any side can go on a run there, and it just takes that getting that wee run together. But I mean, the standard of football there, I'd almost rather go and watch a women's game, Dennis. The standard of football down there just now.
Yeah, well,
I'm getting between 2 dinosaurs.
No, I was trying to be diplomatic as against abrasive. I think and I'll repeat it again, I think there's a place for women's football. But for me to watch
listen, don't get me wrong. When we telling on the show, we did go and watch a number of female games, so I think she was at Hamilton at the time. So we did go and watch a number of female games, and yeah, it has improved. So no, as I say, it was more a point of humour there, castigating the men's game rather than slaughtering the women's game, to be honest.
Well, it's not that as well. You've got to watch what you're saying. If you remember, the Daily Record got hammered when Gordon Parks wrote an article, and it was unbelievable. They just were up my arms, and Helen was the one that had actually created the monster. So, they then had a voice, and that's what they want. They want a voice.
Yeah.
Anyway, ending on that point, we have the Champions League back. And, when I went to look at Europa League, I went, how good is that? Rangers are not even in the playoff. They're right into the next round. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And especially when, I've given them tons of stick, and I don't think they're the finished article. But when you look at some of the teams that they've left in their wake, Rangers have done exceptionally well. Exceptionally well. But I still think they're under a cloud when it comes to money, because the Rangers manager actually said the boy Lyle Cameron from Dundee has signed a pre-season for in the summer.
Contract.
Yeah. But what was quite stunning to me was when he said, and somebody asked him why did they not get him in the January window, they said it was a financial decision. Surely, if Rangers can't afford to have a financial settlement in place to get somebody from Dundee, they're in a bad way financially. That was what I picked up on that. So maybe they hope that they're going to get something in the summer. You never know. But we'll just need to wait and see. So hopefully Rangers don't have a game. It's still a few weeks away, maybe a bit more. I think it's into March before the next game is. And when we look at the Champions League, on Tuesday night, we have Manchester City against Real Madrid. Now, I'm touching on that one because how embarrassing is this going to be for Manchester City? Because I think they are absolutely shambolic now. And I feel that Pep Guardiola needs a change because these guys are not doing it for him. They used to be the equivalent of what we said at the start of the programme about Liverpool. They're a shadow of that. And they were so bad against Arsenal when I watched them last. So bad.
Yeah, Manchester City against Real Madrid, Graham.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, that was a European Champions League final. And now it's a playoff to get into the last 16 or whatever it is of the competition.
Yeah.
How dramatically have both these sides fallen in Europe, Graham?
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I love every second of it. It's been unbelievable. Like, nobody could have seen that coming. Like, Man City had to win against Bruges just to get in the playoff last week, which is crazy. They've both been so poor. And Man City, I find them quite boring to watch. It's very, very slow tempo. There's no real patterns of play like there is at Liverpool. It's just very boring. And I know this is going to sound daft to say this, but if Erling Haaland doesn't score, I don't know what else he does. Like, he offers nothing up front apart from when he does get his head in a goal. But honestly, I'm looking forward to that. That could be a really, really good game. Even though it's a playoff, I think that'll be a real interesting game. I generally can't predict who's going to win it, though. I think it's so tight.
Well, they've got Man City's got a mountain to climb before they get to the Real Madrid game, because you imagine the tie they're in. Leyton Orient they've got in the next round of the Cup on Saturday or tomorrow. So to go from Leyton Orient to playing Real Madrid, what a banana skin that would be. I think they will take care of them quite comfortably, but they need to be rattling goals in to get themselves together, because 5-1 against Arsenal is just not acceptable at any level, whether it's a cup, whether it's a league, it doesn't matter. I mean, that was an absolute going over, and I don't know how they turn and come back from that. But it'll be interesting to see if they've got what it takes to even, I don't know where they'll end up in the league, but they need to be battling. Or I'll tell you what, it's curtains for the manager. There's only so much that they will put up with.
I don't think a team miss one player as much as Man City miss Rodri.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right in that, Graham. Yep. Big miss. And all the guys just not turning up. Yeah.
They're just anytime you watch them, they just do not appear interested. Other than Phil Foden, Manchester City do not appear interested, and you're right what you say about Haaland. Yeah, you've got to have a striker there who's a focal point who's going to score goals. I totally get that. but he offers absolutely nothing. He doesn't come back. He doesn't hold the ball up. He does very, very little other than put the ball in the back of the net, you know. And I think with what football is now, you need a player who can bring other players into play as well, you know. And Haaland just doesn't do that.
I'm sure he's bothering with you, actually. I think I just heard a big jet going over the roof, and it might be his. I mean, you look at it, £200 million for a player that is absolutely magnificent when he's on song. And imagine what he would be like, Graham, if he was in the Liverpool team. Wow. I mean, he's a great player.
I have never, ever seen a 9.5-year contract in my life.
I know. Well, the manager didn't know about it either, because when he was interviewed, he actually went, "Oh, is that right?" You know? Anyway, let's just look at the other tie. That's what we went on to the Champions League for, was basically Celtic have got Bayern Munich. I think that's a great tie. I said it last week that basically not qualifying was not something major, because they were going to end up with Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. I don't think they've got what it needs to win the Champions League. So why not get a magnificent tie out of it before they can either progress or go out? And you'll not get, I'd say that's probably second best. If it's no Real Madrid, then Bayern Munich. So I think that'll be a good tie for the Celtic supporters. I don't think it'll get
could be an interesting. I
don't
think so. I'd be very surprised if they get something from it at all. Yeah. But the way the Champions League this season has been, Dennis, I wouldn't be at all. Yeah. You know, I don't think it'd be a massive shock if Celtic did manage to sneak through, you know, because I say the Champions League's thrown up some crazy results, Graham.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a belter of a tie, that. Absolute belter. Harry Kane at Celtic Park.
Yeah, I know.
I'm buzzing for that. Even as a non-Celtic fan, I think that is an absolute belter of a tie. There's every chance Celtic could either get an absolute hammering or they could cause a real surprise at Celtic Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, time will tell. Anyway, I think we've exhausted our time, Cammy. We're nearly getting to this running wild an hour and a half stage of the evening. That's where the dinosaur ranting away, so I can't get away from it.
Listen, it's been a very productive but lengthy show again tonight, you know. But thanks very much to Dennis the Dinosaur. That's your new nickname. We need to put that up next week. But no, it's been a great show. As I say, we've discussed everything from women's football to religious symbols to whatever else, you know. And Hearts and Liverpool obviously having a fantastic start to the year. You know, 2025 has been great for both of these clubs. So, as always, go ahead. If you've liked what you've heard tonight, like, subscribe, click that bell to be notified of any updates, any fresh shows that are dropping. Next week will be early. We're starting at 6 o'clock next week, just purely and simply so as I can get to the pool next week, because I'm in Gran Canaria next week. So I'll be getting a wee bit of suntan. And as I say, we'll be starting at 6 o'clock because the pub shuts early over there. And that'll be us. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much, as always, to Dennis the Dinosaur. Thank you very much to Graham Duffy for popping along. And all that's left to be said is always all happening on the pitch. Good night.